If you own a boat right now, there is a number you probably do not want to look up. Not what you paid, not what you still owe, what it is actually worth today. For 3 years, that number held, and owners told themselves they were fine. Then something flipped in the used market, and it flipped fast. The boats that held their value the longest are suddenly the ones falling the hardest. There is a reason, and it traces back to a decision thousands of buyers made in 2021 without understanding what they were really signing up for. Once you see it, you cannot unsee it. But this story does not start with the price drop. It starts with the boom that created it. Go back to 2020. The country shut down, people had nowhere to spend their money, and they went looking for an escape on the open water. That year, Americans bought more than 310,000 new powerboats. According to the National Marine Manufacturers Association, the trade group that has tracked this industry for decades, that was the highest the market had reached since before the 2008 crash. Dealers could not keep boats on the lot. There were waiting lists at marinas from Florida to Michigan. Buyers paid full sticker price, then paid above it, and thanked the salesman for the privilege. And these were not just rich people. The Marine Group says most boat buyers in this country earn under $100,000 a year. Regular families, stretching to get on the water, convinced the good times would never end. That feeling is exactly what set the trap. And understand the scale of what we are talking about, because this is not some tiny hobby for the wealthy few. Recreational boating in the United States is part of an outdoor economy worth well over $1 trillion, supporting more than 800,000 jobs across tens of thousands of businesses. From the factories, to the marinas, to the corner repair shop, an estimated 85 million Americans get out on the water every year. So when this market cracks, it is not a small story tucked away in a trade magazine. It is a wave that reaches dealers, lenders, builders, and every single owner holding a boat that is quietly losing value while it sits. And in 2021, almost all of them were about to make the very same mistake. Here is the part most of those buyers never stopped to think about. To get those boats, they borrowed. Money was cheap, interest rates sat near the floor, and lenders were writing long boat loans like candy. 15 years, 20 years. The longer the loan, the smaller the monthly payment, and the smaller the payment, the more boat a person could talk themselves into. So a buyer who could comfortably afford a $40,000 boat reached for an $80,000 one because on paper, the monthly number still looked fine. They were not buying a boat, they were buying a payment. And almost nobody asked the one question that mattered. What is this thing going to be worth halfway through a 20-year loan? That was the warning sign flashing in plain view. Everybody ignored it. Think about that for a second. A whole wave of ordinary buyers lock themselves into long-term debt on an asset that loses value faster than almost anything else they will ever own. And there is a word for what that does to you when prices fall underwater. It means you owe more on the loan than the boat is actually worth. You cannot sell it without writing the bank a check for the difference, sometimes a check for many thousands of dollars, just to walk away from something you no longer want. So you keep it, you keep paying. You keep covering the storage and the insurance and the dock fees on a boat you barely use because selling it would cost you even more than holding it. That is the quiet trap thousands of owners are sitting in at this very moment, and most of them have not run the math yet. The ones who have are not sleeping well. For about 3 years, none of that mattered, because used prices stayed sky high. A 2-year-old boat could sell for nearly what it cost brand new. Owners looked at those listings and felt rich, like they had made a brilliant investment. Then, the tide went out. Once the factories caught up and every backlogged order was finally filled, the boats kept arriving, but the buyers stopped coming. Anyone who wanted a boat had already bought one. Demand fell off a cliff. And at the very same moment, all those pandemic boats began landing back on the used market, owner after owner deciding to cash out. Supply exploded right as demand collapsed. By the first half of 2024, new boats were sitting on dealer lots in this country for around 243 days before they sold, almost 53 days longer than the year before. The average new boat price had already started slipping. A boat that does not sell is a boat bleeding money every single day it sits there. And that was not even the part that got owners angry. And the slide did not happen all at once. It came down like a staircase. The Marine Group estimates new boat sales fell around 9 to 12% in 2024 to somewhere near 230,000 units. Then they fell again in 2025, landing at just over 215,000, the lowest this market has seen in more than a decade. Used prices followed the same path down. During the boom, the average used boat had climbed to well over $200,000. Then the whole thing reversed. Brokers now describe boats sitting at the dock for months, sometimes for years, with sellers slowly cutting the price again and again until someone finally bites. The frenzy did not just cool off, it flipped completely. Here is why a boat is such a brutal thing to own at the wrong time. A boat is not a house. It does not sit on a patch of land that holds its value while you sleep. The moment it touches the water, it begins to break down. Salt, sun, and use grind away at it. The engine hours climb, the warranty runs out, and the thing that felt like freedom turns into an anchor on your finances, costing you in storage, insurance, fuel, and repairs whether you take it out or not. When prices were rising, all of that damage hid behind the bigger number on the listing. When the market turned, it came roaring back into view. And here is the cruelest twist. The boats that held their value the best during the boom, the wake boats, the ski boats, the big pontoons, are now among the ones dropping the hardest. The Marine Group's own monthly numbers showed pontoons, jet boats, and wake sport boats all falling by double digits, with some stern drive boats down more than 20% year over year. Why those boats? Because those are the exact boats people overpaid for. The further it flew up, the further it had to fall. And the numbers under the surface told the same story. While a new boat sat on the lot for around 243 days, even used boats were taking roughly 165 days to move, far longer than buyers were used to. Every extra day on the market is another day of pressure on the seller to cut the price. Multiply that across tens of thousands of boats, and you get a market sliding downhill with the brakes cut. That was the warning sign owners kept ignoring, right up until it showed up in their own listing. Picture the man who bought in 2021. He paid top dollar, maybe stretched on a long loan, and for a year or two he felt smart, because every listing told him the boat was worth a fortune. Now, it mostly sits in the driveway under a cover. He has taken it out a handful of times this whole year. The payment still leaves his account on the first of every month, right on schedule. And last week he saw the same boat, same model year, same engine hours listed 2 towns over for far less than he still owes the bank. That is the moment the math stops being a headline and starts being personal. That is the moment thousands of owners are living through right now, all at once. If this is already making you look at your own boat a little differently, do one thing right now: subscribe. This channel breaks down the money side of boating that the dealers and the brokers will never sit you down and explain every single week. Now, while all of this was crushing individual owners, something far larger was cracking underneath the entire industry. And it is the reason the deals are about to get better and a lot more dangerous at the very same time. To understand it, you have to understand how a boat dealer actually stays in business. When you walk onto a lot and see 100 boats lined up in the sun, the dealer does not own those boats outright. They bought them with borrowed money using something called floor plan financing. That is the loan a dealer takes out just to stock the lot, and they pay interest on every single boat sitting there until the day it sells. When boats are flying off the lot, floor plan financing is invisible. Nobody thinks about it. But when boats stop selling, that interest stacks up fast, and it becomes a tourniquet tightening around the whole business. And if that were the only problem, plenty of dealers might have ridden it out. But then the failures started. One of the biggest names in the wake and ski boat world, a national chain called Tommy's Boats, defaulted on more than $100 million of debt and collapsed into bankruptcy. When the bank sent an auditor out to walk the lots, they found something far worse than a slow sales month. Boats that were supposed to be parked there as the bank's collateral had already been quietly sold, with the dealer keeping them on the lot and the money long gone. Around 17 boats were simply unaccounted for. The company also reportedly owed more than $3 million in back sales taxes. That is the kind of number that makes accountants cry. And just when the industry told itself that was one bad operator, the biggest domino of all started to wobble. West Marine. If you have owned a boat for more than a season, you know the name. Founded back in 1968, it grew into the largest boating and marine supply retailer in the entire country, with more than 200 stores. In May of 2026, West Marine filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. The filing listed around $549 million in debt, and the company announced it was closing 59 stores. Revenue had slid to about $690 million, down roughly 8% in a single year, and the company was down to just over $21 million in cash. But here is the detail that tells you everything. Most of that mountain of debt did not come from selling life jackets and dockline. It was loaded onto the company back in 2017 when an investment firm bought West Marine using borrowed money and parked something like $800 million of debt onto its books. The business was paying off the cost of its own purchase. That arrangement works fine when sales are strong and borrowing is cheap. When boat spending dried up and interest rates climbed, it turned into a slow drowning. And there was one more weight the company simply could not put down: its stores. West Marine was paying rent on roughly 200 leases, somewhere around $55 million a year, and those leases do not shrink when sales fall. That is the brutal math of a big retailer in a downturn. The money coming in drops, but the bills stay exactly the same. Rent like that was the single largest cost the company named in its own filing. When the customers stopped spending, the leases kept billing. The clock had been ticking for years. Most shoppers just could not hear it. And while the giants were buckling from the inside, a quieter threat was creeping in from overseas. For decades, if you wanted an outboard, the engine that hangs off the back of most boats, you bought a Yamaha or a Mercury and you paid whatever they asked. Those two names owned the water, but Chinese manufacturers, brands like Parsoon and Haidia, have been building engines that look almost identical, in some cases copied part for part, and selling them for less than half the price. In much of the world, in Australia, in parts of Europe, across Latin America, those engines are already bolted onto working boats every day. They do not yet rule the United States, where strict emission rules keep many of them off the water. But the downward pressure they put on prices is real, and it grinds away at the margins of the very brands you trust at the worst possible moment. So picture the squeeze. The company building the engine is fighting cheaper rivals for its life. The dealer selling the boat is drowning in floor plan debt. Add in the tariffs now rattling the supply chain, which dealers themselves rank among their top worries for this year. When everyone in that chain is bleeding, guess who they lean on to make up the difference? You, the buyer. So yeah, not great. So why is this about to get worse instead of quietly healing? Because the supply problem has not cleared. It is still building. Every month, more of those pandemic boats roll onto the used market as owners finally give up. Some are selling because the payment hurts too much to keep covering. Some are walking away entirely, handing the boat back, letting it get repossessed, and hauled to auction for whatever it will bring. And every one of those boats lands on the pile and drags the price of every similar boat down with it. Now layer on the timing, which is almost too perfect to be an accident. Borrowing costs are still high enough to scare off fresh buyers, with boat loans that once carried rock-bottom rates now running near 7%. So the only thing actually moving boats is deep discounting, which pushes prices even lower, which feeds the whole cycle again. The flood has not crested. That was only round one. And the people closest to it can feel it coming. In the industry's own survey for this year, a real share of dealers expected their revenue to fall again, with some bracing for a significant drop, and they ranked weak consumer demand and pricing pressure as their two biggest fears. When the people whose entire job is selling boats are openly worried about who is left to buy them, that tells you which way this is heading. More dealers under pressure means more closures. And every closure means another lot full of boats sold off in a hurry, at fire sale prices, dragging the whole market down another notch. The owners who bought at the very top are now competing against each other and against the banks dumping repossessions to unload boats into a market with almost no buyers left standing. So where does all of this leave you? It comes down entirely to which of three people you are right now. If you are the owner who bought near the top, the hard truth is that the boat in your driveway is very likely worth far less than you think, and waiting for it to climb back to what you paid could mean waiting many years, not months. The honest move is to learn your real number today, the one the market would actually give you, not the one you wish were true. If you are the nervous shopper, the one finally itching to buy, understand the board has flipped in your favor. The lots are full, the dealers are bleeding, and time is on your side, not theirs. Roughly 8 in 10 boats sold in this country are used, which means your options are everywhere you look. Every week you wait, the leverage tilts further toward you. And if you are the third person, the one who sees all of this clearly and refuses to move until the market itself hands you the signal, you are about to be in the strongest position of anyone. Because in a collapse, the person holding cash and patience does not lose. History is clear on this. The buyers who win in a crash are never the ones who rushed in early. They are the ones who waited for the sellers to run out of patience first. They wait for the bottom, and then they buy the boat everyone else overpaid for, at the price the market finally admits is real. So remember that number from the very start, the one you did not want to look up. Stop avoiding it. Go and find what your boat, or the boat you keep eyeing, is genuinely worth in this market right now. Not last year, today. That number is not your enemy. In a market like this one, it is the only weapon you have, because the person who knows the real price is the person who cannot be played. The dealers are quietly hoping you never look. So look. And if you want to catch the exact moment this market hits the bottom, the signal that tells the patient buyers it is finally time to move, subscribe and stay close, because that is the one video you will not want to miss.